The Atari Network is a fan channel and is not affiliated with Atari. The Atari logo and name is copyrights of their respective owners.
Recently, I did my first episode of 5 to Try on the Atari 5200 library, and I think some people felt I didn't dig deep enough into that console's library. That video was meant to be for new owners of the console like me, and a recommendation of what to get if you're investing into the early stages of a collection. But for the 7800, I'm going to try and hit some deeper cuts. A lot of the same games get mentioned when people talk about the 7800, and for good reason. I'm talking about games like Food Fight, Asteroids, Alien Brigade, Commando, Ball Blazer, Miss Pac-Man, Xevious, Robotron 2084, and Ninja Golf. So I'm going to attempt to highlight some of the retail games in the Atari 7800 library that you might have skipped over because they didn't initially look appealing, or maybe you've heard some mixed reactions about them and wasn't sure who to believe. You can believe me, because I'm the 7800 Pro System gamer, and the Pro System is sort of my bag, baby. And I'm not limiting myself to just affordable games this time either. So no restrictions, I'm letting it all hang out in this video. I recommended OneOnOne Basketball in my buyer's guide, and I'm going to bring it up here as well. I can't express to you how well this one plays for the Atari 7800. It's without a doubt the best sports game on the console, and it can be fun to play and difficult to truly master the tougher difficulty settings. But it honestly shines the most with a friend. There is nothing quite like trash-talking one another as you strip the ball and force your friend's character into a state of exhaustion. And on the occasion where you finally break the backboard, it can be very rewarding. So can getting replays too. There is so much more to OneOnOne Basketball than you might initially think, and it's a game that is still going for a reasonable price on eBay. Pick it up now with a couple 2-button controllers and jam it into your new 2600 Plus. I bet you'll end up thanking me. Tower Toppler is one of those games that gets a bad rep in my opinion. It looks like it should be a sort of side-scrolling adventure, and maybe it is a little bit, but at its core, Tower Toppler is actually a puzzle game that requires trial and error gameplay and reaching the top of several towers to take them down, one after another. And it mixes things up with a nice underwater shooter level in between the towers, with beautiful parallax scrolling effects. In fact, the whole game of Tower Toppler has pretty impressive 3D rotating effects and graphical tricks galore. It can take a while to get the hang of the controls, but once you do, you'll be having a good time. Also, if you plug this one into your shining new 2600 Plus, and it begins cycling through towers instead of allowing you to just play, be sure to flip your difficulty switches. What you're actually experiencing is a sort of level select that was intended to allow people to practice the more difficult towers without having to complete the easier ones. Don't worry, I thought my cart was broken too the first time this happened to me. But regardless of all that, give this one a fair shake, unless you absolutely can't stand trial and error gameplay. But even then, aren't all video games kind of trial and error anyway? You can pick up winter games and summer games for the Atari 7800, and while it should come down to which one piques your interest, I recommend winter games as the superior one. The events are better and more varied in my opinion, and there is some fun to be had here even if you don't have a few other players. That's the thing about Epic's game series, is that you usually need multiple people to get the most out of them. But I had a lot of fun playing biathlon and speed skiing on my own in winter games, and I think you might too. The long jump can be pretty difficult to get the hang of, but it's the most rewarding game to actually master. And the luge looks complicated, but again, it's probably the most approachable of the bunch. If you want to get into the winter mood, then there is no better game on the Atari 7800 than winter games. I think a lot of people look at Desert Falcon's Zaxxon-style viewpoint and gameplay and immediately write it off. But that really isn't fair to this Egyptian-themed shooter. Yes, it plays a lot like Zaxxon, but it's not as difficult as you might think. And the ability to collect different hieroglyphic symbols and get a wide variety of power-ups is not only very cool, but it can completely alter the game in some fascinating ways. Much like winter games, I know this game won't be for everybody, but I think it's a game that too many people shy away from, and it's been like that from the 7800's beginning, so why not check out one of the most affordable and unique games on the Atari 7800 Pro system? You might have more fun than you initially think. Froggo was a strange gaming company with an awful name, but they did manage to produce a pretty decent and unique game in Water Ski. The control is perfect for what it is, and there is a lifetime's worth of challenge here. Much like Tower Toppler, Water Ski is a trial and error game that requires you to replay it and continually get a little further each time. But if I'm being honest with you, Water Ski is probably the most broken game on this list. Sometimes you'll crash your speedboat or dump your skier, even when you're nowhere near an obstacle. And then there are other times where you're clearly overlapping an obstacle, but you're free to continue your run. Somehow, despite the game's very apparent flaws, it manages to be one of the most unique and fun experiences on the console. The price is getting up there, so if you're interested, I would grab a copy sooner rather than later. Or maybe you can find a certain pack of games online and play it on a flash cart. Okay guys, there you have it. 5 Atari 7800 games that I think most people will like if they give them an honest try. I tried to cover a nice variety in games and genres, so hopefully you were able to find something that you either hadn't considered before, or maybe you had never even heard of. These were some deeper cuts than the 5200 video, so let me know if you preferred this list, or the one from my previous 5 to try video. And let me know if you agree with my picks, or if you have some different recommendations down in the comments below. With all that said, I'm the 7800 Pro System Gamer on behalf of the Atari Network, and I'd like to thank you all for watching. Keep it classy, Atarians.